Hi, it's Clive. At least I'm Clive today. I've just re-registered, or rather reintroduced myself on a web forum for people like myself, people who are transgendered or pangendered, called Cross Stream Life. It's a very, very good forum with a lot of very thoughtful discussion and support between the members. I've been involved with that on and off over several years now. I'm not terribly regular at posting, although I have from time to time when I feel I've had something to share. And since literally in the last few weeks, this realization of Chloe being my real femme identity, and that seeming to be very important and meaningful for me, I thought it was appropriate to reintroduce myself on this site. It's kind of like a rebirth. I wouldn't go as far as a kind of rite of passage or anything that extreme, but still something quite important. And there were one or two supportive and welcoming responses, which is one of the nice things about the forum. But one response gave me cause for perplexion, really. And it did occur to me that it could cause others actually quite a lot of offence and harm, which basically offered the view that to reintroduce myself was a pointless exercise. And I'm not entirely sure how to interpret that comment, or what perspective the individual was taking, or whether they'd even read my introduction. But it did occur to me that this is very pointed when on the internet, particularly, people sitting behind a keyboard can tap away and quite easily say something, probably with very limited thought very often, which can really get to the nub of what offends people. Because for me, who you are, the identity that you create, is crucially important. It's who you are. You're being rejected. You're being derided when people react in this way. And I know with this kind of comment that it has to be ignored and set aside, which is by and large what I do with this sort of thing, and it didn't particularly bother me. It just caused me to reflect a little bit, particularly since I had a message from a friend who'd experienced something similar just last night. And it also caused me to think of a situation perhaps just a few years ago, around this particular time of year. I'm recording this just before Christmas, when I was staying in Shropshire, northern England, and I visited a park which had recreated the old industrial, at the time of the Industrial Revolution. It was a very interesting place to visit. And one of the attractions there was a photo studio set up in a sort of Victorian way. So the photographer got behind, underneath a cape, and I think there was a sort of like a mock flash that went off, and they had a range of costumes that you could try on. And I, at the time, was not cross-dressing, hardly at all. That had sort of slipped off the agenda for a little while for me, I think, or at least I'd suppressed it. It was very much still there and waiting to come back to the surface. But when I went into this place, I actually really wanted to try on one of these lace Victorian dresses. That was the image I wanted to create and be. And I mentioned this to the woman who was running the shop and taking the photographs, and she looked at me askance and didn't know how to react, and actually I think looked quite disgusted. And so I sort of backed off and ended up, as it were, modelling an army officer, or an army soldier of that period. And again, she said, well, if you really want to do this, I'll consider it. Come back later. I'm busy at the moment. I don't think she was busy. I didn't see anybody else there. And it was towards the end of the day, so that was very clearly an indication that she didn't want to entertain that particular idea. And actually that moment, that wanting to wear that dress, why can't I wear this dress and be this person in this photograph, was quite significant for me. It was a moment of coming back and wanting to experiment and wanting to express and present my feminine side once more. But I guess yet another example of encountering, as you once in a while do, somebody who didn't understand that, who didn't get it, and I felt very sad on that occasion. So I hope that if you're one of those who is inclined to criticize and not understand this strange condition, why guys sometimes like to try on a dress, why they find their feminine identity to be so important to them, and that comes down to finding and discovering their name, then I kind of would just plead with you to think again. It really is something that is very core and very important. I hope, if that's you, that perhaps next time you might be a little bit more mindful. Anyway, we live in a world of prejudice. It's part and parcel of those of us who live a life a little less ordinary to once in a while encounter that, and we have to deal with it as best we can. But I thought I would share, because this is something that probably affects all of us to some extent. Bye for now.